Hi there, thanks for stopping by. In today's video, another special request, we're going to look at the snail fossil from the Seashell Looms set. So hopefully this will answer all of your questions. But before I start, I'd just like to remind you that my interview with the Fiber Talk podcast is now live. And so if you haven't seen it, I will pop a link in the description box below so you can go over and take a look. And the usual sort of plea, if you've enjoyed this video, click like, hit subscribe, leave me a comment, all those wonderful things that help the YouTube algorithms work a little bit better, and I'd really appreciate it. So without further ado, let's get started. So to work this, you'll need loom number 5, and obviously you'll need thread and a needle. Warping this loom is quite easy. Basically, come up from the center hole. You'll want your short end at the back. I would tape this if I were you, but I think the tape interferes with the filming a little bit. And so you're going to come up straight up, and instead of coming straight down, go off to one side. So that's tab 12. And then basically you're going to skip a tab and work around. Okay? And then as you come around full circle, you'll be able to fill the tabs that you skipped. And that'll give a nice center crossing. Now I'm going to cut a long length, probably not too long, might look a bit horrible on film. And thread a needle. So now we're going to work rounding back stitches. Basically for the first row we're going to go over 3, back under 2 for 1 row. Okay, so let's just anchor this thread. So I've anchored it underneath so I can start. Okay, now you're not going to be able to see this very much because you do want these stitches to be quite tight to the center when you start. So over 3, so that's each of these spokes, which is 2 threads for this particular design. So we're going 1, 2, 3, and then back under 2. So I'll put the needle there so that you can hopefully see. And that's going to be for 1 row. So over 3, under 2, and I'm going to try to keep it as close to the center as I can, but I'm not going to pull those spokes in if I can help it. I want to keep them sort of fairly straight. So there, I've just about come full circle, so I can start on the next one. Obviously you're not going to join up because it's working out in a spiral. Okay, so the next row has to go over 3, back under 3, over 3, and back under 2 for 2 rows. So we're going over 3, so that's 1, 2, 3, under 3, so we're going back to the where we started, and then over 3, under 2. So we'll skip along. And then allow, as you're working, allow your thread, your next wrap to sort of cross over. So over 3, so 1, 2, 3, under 3, so we're going right back to where we were. Then over the 3 and under the 2. So if you can try to keep things compact to the center as you're working, but don't pull in the spokes. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a row and a bit and then come back to you so that you can see. I think when it's spread out a little bit more, you'll be able to see a little bit more as well, because it isn't the easiest thing to see. So as I'm working my way around, I'm into the second row now. And incidentally, this do 2 rows, do 3 rows, whatever. It doesn't matter. You can do as many or as few as you like. I wouldn't necessarily do more than on a particular stitch. So if I'm saying go over 3, under 3, I wouldn't do that for too many rows because you'll start to lose clarity. That's why it increases as you move out. But you can certainly do less. So over 3, under 3, over 3, under 2. And notice I'm packing this down quite tightly towards the center. I'm also letting the thread sort of overlap at a little bit of an angle. I'm not trying to have it sort of on top of each other. I'm letting the thread do what the thread wants to do, and that helps to create a better spiral as well. Okay, now we're ready to do the next row, which is over 4, under 4, over 4, and then under 3. So basically we're increasing now. So we're going over 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, under 4, over 4, but only under 3. And moving along. So it's just increased the stitch. And you can see we're getting a really nice swirl pattern appear now. And keep trying to push it towards the center. That will help to emphasize that swirl, because you'll get, that will help to ensure this ridge is more pronounced. So I'm just about at where the row would finish or end, and so now I'm going to work the part that I think may be the most confusing for everyone. So now we're going to work over 4, under 4, over 4, under 4, and then wrap some of the stitches. So, and I've said to wrap the stitches between the paired spokes. Now, what this does is it's helping, we're getting our stitches quite long now as we're going out towards the edge of the loom. And so they become a little bit unstable. But also we're helping to add to the organic feel. Okay, so I'm going to go over 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, back under 4, over 4, back under 4, and then wrap. Now what I mean by that is to basically come around the stitches and up, and you can pierce the thread as well, it doesn't matter. And you do not have to do every single paired spoke if you don't want to. You can do 2 or 3 or just 1. But the point is that you want to start wrapping, because this will start to add, as I said, a more organic feel. So as we come up on the last one, you want to make sure that your thread goes back under 3, not 4, so that you can start the next section, which is over 4, under 4, over 4, under 4, and then you're going to wrap. So let's say I only wrap 2 on this one. And then I'm going to go back under the 3 so that I can work again. 2 of the long stitches and a wrap. And for that one, let's wrap there and there. And just make it quite random. So as you can see, what's happening is this is starting to build up. So you want to do this for another row. Okay. As I said, you could do 2 rows on this. You could make it a little bit bigger because we're getting towards the end. And as I said as well, don't worry about piercing the threads. That's absolutely fine. At this point, I'm going to add a little bit of thread. And basically, to add thread, you could just take your needle right the way through all of these different wraps and then through to the center and come up and do exactly the same to finish it. You've got a lot of thread wrapped around in here, and it's not going to be seen at all when you do it that way. Okay. So now we have to work the last part. So the last part will come over 4, under 4, twice, then I brought it up differently, sorry, and then over 3, under 3 twice, then over 2, under 2 twice, which is giving us sort of the end part. And now that needs to be wrapped, okay? And again, it's the same principle. We're just wrapping it a little bit randomly. If you try to go with the general direction of the spiral, it's a good idea, so the tilt is the same. But that's just to help hold this all into place. Now these wrapping stitches, they can create quite a distinct look depending on what thread you're using. And so you may wish to do the wrapping at other points as well. It does depend on the colors and the tightness, but as you can see, you've got a little sort of snail shape now. So I'm just going to take my thread again through and underneath just to fasten that off. And then I'm going to remove this from the loom. So simply take the tabs off. I'm going to cut those center starting tails, okay, because I just want to show you something. Sometimes you may like the inside of your snail more than the outside, or you may want it to be opposite. Those tails that you have, you can go ahead and thread them through, you not cut them if you want sort of something a little bit more secure. And I'm going to cut that quite close actually, because on this particular color I think that the swirl is more pronounced on the back for some reason, but that happens sometimes. Okay, so if that's the case, then just take a look and swap around to the color that you like the best. Now, all of these loops, whenever you have decided which side you're using, these need to be tucked to the back. So obviously when you're tucking them, it depends your final use, but I do find that just adding a piece of thread and then going in and out of your loops means that you can pull them in. Now you have to pay attention to the end section, because obviously you don't want that pulled in. You want to make sure that you keep that as an end. So I have folded that down, and then I'll start afresh, and I've just tacked that. So then I'm going in and out of each of these loops, just so that I can grab them more easily and control them, and then I can just pull it a little bit, sort of gathering it up really, but obviously you don't want to pull at your snail itself. And then that can just be tacked into place. Double check your front that you're happy. Little knot. Then one snail or fossil. And as I said, you can change up. You don't have to do as many rows. You can do, you know, only one little row and start wrapping almost automatically. You could, if you really wanted to, you could take it over 5 spokes. It does start to become a little unstable at that point, which is why I've said only over the 4. But, you know, play around. If you do enough of the individual wraps, you should get quite a nice effect. And at the same time, you can go much wider, add in more rows, make something a little bit bigger. I actually used a different color for the spokes on this, so that you can sort of create more of your spongy sort of sea creatures as well with that spiral. And you can, of course, if you're using the same principle on loom 9 will give you a little tiny snail, which I love doing. Obviously it's fewer rows and slightly different numbers of spokes that you go over, but it's the same principle. If you work with different colors, they can sort of change around and spiral in a different way as well, which is quite nice. I think the variegateds work very well if you're working with a snail. But obviously if you're looking at something more fossily, then maybe a solid color would be nice. You could also do extra stitching if you wanted to when you do the applique into the spirals to really emphasize them, which is really nice, particularly if you're doing a, you want it to be a fossil as opposed to a snail. So I hope that that has helped. And I want to see lots and lots of snails. So do please click like, hit subscribe, all that wonderful fun stuff. Leave me a comment. Let me know if this helped. And until the next time, bye-bye.